Do you remember when you first learned about free and open source software?
I definitely do. It was actually back in the probably 91 maybe. It was a long time ago. Because I have some good friends who are who've been involved in open source and promoting open source for a long time. And in fact, if it weren't for the support of friends of mine in the open source community who got me involved in learning web development and learning PHP and databases and for that matter server-side administration, like I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't have the friends in the community who were able to support me in my learning journey and be able to piece together the technical elements, but also to ground me in the philosophical elements, to be able to have a sense of like, well, why is it that the GPL and the MIT might be preferable in one case or another, or to have those conversations around the context with which these open source licenses help to go off and potentially shape a community, or potentially guide how the protections for those people who are involved in creating the content and the material there.
Were you immediately aware of the community and the people in open source, or well, in 91 that was still free software? Because I think open source, the term, was coined in 98.
Yeah.
Were you aware of the people and the community right away, or did you get in touch with the freely available tools and learning that you can access the source code as well, and learning about the community might have come later?
In some ways, like I met the community first because they were, friends from physics class or people I socialized with when in what I was involved in. So there were already people in the community. It took me actually a while to go off and to get into the coding side, and then to weave into like, how do I actually find open source projects to use and to make a business out of it and be able to and then to start to think about contributing. Like, how do I take on the ownership of a project? I became the maintainer of an open source project back in 2000 or 2001. It was an old, wasn't old at the time, but just the maintainer walked away from it and was like, oh, this is a bit of code that I plan to use, and so I ended up taking responsibility for it. And there's nothing quite like having the responsibility for a project when you're just learning software. So trying to build a community around that piece of software, and I worked with that for about 3 years before I moved over to the Drupal community.
Were you able to get involved and participate in any of the communities that you learned about, or collaborate with your friends in these environments before you touched code, so as a non-code contributor?
There wasn't really, back at that time, there weren't that many ways that could be done. It wasn't, and I didn't have design skills. I had enthusiasm, but I don't think in terms of discussions and the ideas and the philosophical underpinnings of it were definitely appealing. But I didn't have an easy way to access this. I mean, there's people who complain about how horrible GitHub is, and I quite like GitHub, and it's so much better than what SourceForge was. And I'm not even sure, like, when I started, like, I don't know when SourceForge started, but it was definitely new and better at the time than what people were using before, using CVS or just sharing files back and forth. And like, there wasn't a way to go off and just have access. I mean, SourceForge was the first space to go off and to share code in a version controlled sort of fashion that I was aware of, and that was really important to be able to be able to build a community around the piece of software. But it didn't have all the other pieces that you now have with GitHub or GitLab or any of the other modern repos that are hosting most of our code, and that those additional pieces are really quite important, like having that space to have a discussion and a dialogue and to deal with comments about what are the issues you want to address and how you want to prioritize them. Like, that didn't exist.
So it sounds like that having access to the tools where you can interact with people about the code and the project that is also very helpful in building the community around.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was both in terms of extending the functionality of the code base, as well as being able to sort of learn what people need. What do they want? Like how do you engage with people, and how do you find the code that you might want to implement or to engage with? I mean, this is all. I mean, it didn't all start back there, but Google wasn't around when I was starting my business. Like it was there's a lot with Ask Jeeves and other tools. Just because I'm an old guy, these are things that I've seen the progression and degradation of these tools.
And now in the AI age, we will just experience that all over again, I guess, in a much higher speed.
Exactly.